What's going on, everybody? Welcome to PFF's live NFL playoffs preview show. So glad that you guys are here hanging out with us as we preview these 4 games here in the divisional round. This is the best weekend in the NFL calendar. You've got 4 fantastic games with everything on the line, win or go home, for some fantastic teams. And we're excited that you guys are here to listen to us break everything down. We're going to get you the best bets. We're going to talk about the roster previews, who's in the games, who's out, who we think is going to come out on top, who we've got as representing for the AFC and NFC, all that kinds of good stuff. I'm Trevor Sikkema, with me, Sam Monson, Ian Hartitz, Austin Gayle. Fellas, how we feeling entering the best week of the season here?
Feeling good. I'm loving this week of games. Like, you look at each one of these, I don't know if any one of them is going to be the kind of blowouts we saw from last week. They should all be close games. I'm excited for it.
Great day to be great as always. And we got Austin here because Eric couldn't show his face after the whole Stafford thing.
True. Oh, yes.
Hated on Stafford on the previous show. I'm excited for these games, obviously. I think Cincinnati in the playoffs. They won their first playoff game since 1991 in Cincinnati. Now going to Nashville, where you see them go to Arrowhead. This line's probably 6, 7. It's only 3.5 against Tennessee. There's a chance, right? There's a chance. Here in Queen City, that's where PFF is based, so I'm excited for Bengals fans here.
Did Eric pick the Cardinals? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I assume he did. He picked the Cardinals?
He's not here. He can't speak for it.
That makes sense.
Cincinnati
can't defend himself.
Electricity, though. I can't go to the local Kroger without having at least one person tell me who they.
It's true. Yeah, it is. It is lively here in the city of Cincinnati, and the reason is because the Bengals are advancing here. Now they are playing the Tennessee Titans. Let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture right now. We've got the Titans and the Bengals, and then we also have on the other side of things Mahomes versus Allen, Bills versus Chiefs. I feel like these are the teams that we wanted here at the end, right? I mean, like, that's what's most important. When you get to the divisional round, you want the 4 teams that you really wanted here the most. And I think some people had some faith that the Chargers could have been one of these 4 teams, but really down the stretch, I'm not so sure they proved themselves, especially with the Titans getting healthy down the stretch. This feels like the best 4 teams, is it not?
No, I think so. I think you could argue for the Chargers, right? And I do think that they were ultimately too inconsistent to go deep in the playoffs, let alone make the playoffs. You saw that against the Las Vegas Raiders team that, maybe wasn't supposed to be in the playoffs either, right? I think towards the back half, those Colts, Raiders, Chargers, obviously not up to snuff. But the Titans are probably the team I like the least of those 4, right? And they're obviously the number 1 seed. They're obviously getting healthy, so I think that's a big factor. I think Tennessee going 1 and done, not winning today at home against Cincy after a week of rest with Derrick Henry would be a bit of a shock to a lot of people, and I'm excited for that.
Let's look at how the Bengals got here, because it is special, right? I mean, a lot of people are talking about the Titans and, are they the worst 1 seed ever? What? On the other side of things, they've got one of the hottest teams in the NFL, man. Against AFC playoffs teams, as you guys can see on the screen now, 5-0. Man, like, they have been fantastic, not just against the bad opponents, but also against the good opponents. They're playing really, really well, and you would be hard-pressed to find any football player, let alone a quarterback, playing more confidently than Joe Burrow is right now.
And just playing better. I mean, he only missed out on being the number 1 graded quarterback at PFF during the regular season because they sat him down in week 18 and allowed Tom Brady to jump him for that final number 1 spot. But right now, he is playing out of his mind, and it looks like Zach Taylor and the Bengals have generally sort of figured that out and realized that, hey, you know what, this amazing quarterback we have, how about the offense runs through him instead of Joe Mixon on first down? Let's just let that guy do what he does, and that's where their best football is coming from.
So I push back on that a little bit, right? Because in Week 16 and Week 17, we saw them throw on early down 70% of the time. It's the only 2 times Zach Taylor has ever done it in his head coaching career. It's the only 2 times that he's done it with Joe Burrow. Against the Las Vegas Raiders, they kind of got back to their old ways. They only ran the ball on early down. I mean, they only threw the ball on early downs, I think, roughly 55% of the time. 16 of 17 of Joe Mixon's carries came on either first or second down, and he averaged 2.4 yards per carry. The only reason the Raiders are in that game is because they're running the football a ton. And whether it's the cold or they were nervous to attack a really bad Raiders secondary, I don't really understand it. They had their way with Desmond Trufant on the outside. Brandon Faison, the outside cornerback for the Raiders, got hurt, I think, in the second quarter. Why aren't they leaning into that a bit more? Maybe it's protecting Burrow. Maybe it's not faith in the offensive line. But if they go into the game plan this week against the Titans, and they want to turn it down and run Joe Mixon first and second down, the Titans are going to be in this game too. If they want to turn it on, as we saw in Week 16 and Week 17, they can throw for 900-plus yards, as Joe Burrow did.
And we're going to break down a lot of what's going to happen if that's the case, what game scripts need to happen for the Titans to win, the Bengals to win. We're going to take a deeper dive into all of these previews, but Allen versus Mahomes. I mean, like, this is such a major matchup. There's a reason why they saved this one for Sunday night, and that is because all eyes are going to be on these guys no matter what. These are 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the game. Who you got in this one? Even like teams aside, who do you think is going to step up the most in this moment?
Yeah, this was supposed to be the AFC Championship game, right? It was last year. It was supposed to be this year.
Right.
And we're getting it a round early because of the way these two teams kind of had struggles during the course of the regular season. Each one of them had a period where things weren't going that well. It's impossible to play better than Josh Allen did a week ago. Now, that means he's almost certainly not going to play that well again, right?
Double-edged sword.
But people were making this argument last year that, hey, is Josh Allen as good as Patrick Mahomes? Is he the better quarterback this week? A year ago, I think that was crazy, even though Josh Allen was having that incredible year. This season, you can make that argument. Allen, I think, has played better than Mahomes through the course of the year. He's coming off a better game. And right now, this second, I think you can make a pretty strong argument that he is the better quarterback going into this game.
And I think in that game, Josh Allen versus Mac Jones, like we saw why teams were, I think, right to take a Justin Fields, take a Trey Lance over Mac Jones. Because when you have this Josh Allen, this player with limitless arm strength, unlimited, whatever the hell I'm trying to say, you can run around out there on the field.
Limitless works, right?
I like
Yeah,
it.
there we go. We got it.
Limitless
We're working with it. But like the ceiling is just so much higher when everything comes together. And it's nothing against Mac Jones. He had a great rookie season and everything. But my goodness, like, you said it, Sam. When Josh Allen is at his best, he probably is better than Patrick Mahomes. He's probably better than any quarterback in the league when he's at his very best. But let's not pretend like that's been Josh every single week throughout this year. You can show PFF passing grade, yards per attempt, QB rating, whatever the hell you want to, and it's a roller coaster, guys.
Right.
So we'll see which version shows up.
All right, let's flip over to the NFC and look at the NFC playoff side of things. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers facing off against the Los Angeles Rams. This is the third matchup that we've seen in the last year and a half between these two teams, and the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers. I know there are some people out there who would say, man, if it was the Cowboys instead of the Niners, that would be the four best teams, but man, the Niners were one of the most dangerous teams going into the playoffs. They got the upset that they wanted. I think the right four teams are here. Am I crazy?
Stop calling the 49ers like a bad matchup for these teams. We're calling them a bad matchup for every team in the league. Maybe that just means they're a great team.
How else would we read our headlines?
That's true.
That's fair.
You got to think about the content, the return on investment.
But
with the
like,
clicks.
let's quit pretending this team with Debo, Ayuk, Trent Williams, a somewhat healthy version of Jimmy G, Nick Bosa on defense. They're not this underdog, like not a scrappy underdog. They don't have Aaron Rodgers out there, but this is a team that can take down anyone.
But you know what? They think they're underdogs. And I think that's just, honestly, it's super powerful. Anybody who's played sports before, knowing that you have that doubt that fuels you that, oh, this other team's the favorite, we got nothing to lose kind of a mentality. Obviously, you don't want it to go the way it went for Big Ben when he said that for the Steelers. You don't want to get blown out in that regard. But I think that
he
when
didn't
it's...
believe it, though. Right? He was just saying...
I think that when you have that kind of motivation, it is dangerous. And I do feel like the 49ers kind of have that.
Well, you said
mentality.
they are underdogs. They were underdogs against Dallas. They're underdogs against Green Bay. They're underdogs because they have a bad quarterback. They easily have the worst quarterback of the playoffs, and he's hurt. Like those are always going to be teams that you mark as bad teams, right? It's in the playoffs, the best quarterbacks win. Period. Now, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, rookie Elijah Mitchell, Nick Bosa now healthy. Like that matters, and they have a really good supporting cast. Trent Williams won PFF's Best Player of the Year because he's that different.
Who does match up well with them? That's
No. I get what you're saying about the bad matchup thing, but I'm saying the reason people are calling them underdogs is because they are underdogs.
Right.
Like, they're
Yes,
underdogs. They're underdogs in
true.
every game they play because they have a bad quarterback, and so much of spread is on the quarterback.
Yep.
Jimmy G versus Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a 6-point favorite, 5.5 in some spots. Going against Dak, 4.5-point dogs in Dallas. Like Jimmy G is the reason Dallas almost comes back in this game, and Jimmy G is the reason they're 6-point dogs in Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a bad matchup for every team because they are a unique offense.
Yeah, they
right?
are.
Like, that's
They're
the
a
thing.
zig to everyone's zag.
Yeah, exactly. They have built this offense in a completely different way to anybody else. I know Kyle Shanahan's offense, like the family tree, there's a lot of that offense in the NFL, but he does it in a different way to everybody else. They've also stockpiled the entire offense with these freak athletes that nobody else has. Like nobody else has an equivalent of a Deebo Samuel. That guy doesn't exist in the NFL. George Kittle is a unique athlete. Brandon Ayuk, even he has a sort of weird skill set for a kind of outside perimeter wide receiver. Kyle Juszczyk, this pass-catching fullback, that entire offense is built to just be different to everybody else. So I think that, more than anything else, is why they are a bad matchup to every team in the NFL.
They also have a really good coach, right? They have a really good coach that puts them in, like, picks up a lot of these easy wins with the pre-snap shifts and their diverse run game and stuff like that. I think that's another reason why they don't match up well, because we've seen in Dallas, not everyone does have a good coach. Not everyone has that advantage on the sideline. So I do think with Shanahan, that's a big deal as well.
So before we jump into these previews a little bit more, and we're going to get into the spread that we've seen with the 49ers game and all of these games, really, who we're going to be picking for them, I did want to touch on the coaching carousel a little bit, because that is obviously a major topic around the NFL, not just for playoff teams, well, exclusively not for playoff teams, these teams that are trying to rebuild to get there someday. As long as news hasn't broke within the 5 minutes that I've checked my phone before this show started, we still have all of these vacancies, from Chicago Bears, Denver Broncos, Jacksonville Jaguars, Miami Dolphins, Houston Texans, New York Giants, and then it's sort of the Raiders.
Not really,
like, not really, but like kind of.
They're interviewing for the position.
Right, and so like that's which is college. Colleges did that, and it was super weird. I just feel like that's always just like super weird. But whatever, I digress there. Which coaching situation or which team do you have your eyes on the most? I think that, if we wanted to start with the New York Giants, hiring Shane as their GM to come over from the Buffalo Bills, and then them immediately interviewing Leslie Frazier, Brian Daboll, the offensive and defensive coordinators for the Bills, that might be a big-time ripple effect if they take that much stuff. If they take one of the coordinators and the assistant GM from the Buffalo Bills, I mean, that's a big takeaway from the Bills, and I think it's a big add for the Giants. What do you guys think, though?
I'm big on the Chicago Bears opening, right? I think that job is as good as the quarterback prospect that you have, and a lot of people are confident in Justin Fields being like this next guy, right? Where you look at some of these other situations, I don't know what you do with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. There's some trade rumors right now maybe to other teams. You don't know what you do with Derek Carr in Las Vegas. You don't know what you do with Daniel Jones in New York. Whereas with Chicago, there is a quarterback that you can build around. There is a quarterback that does, is worthy of like a top 10 selection in the draft. So I think Chicago, they also have some pieces on defense. I think it's a very talented football team. That's the position I probably like most. I know they've been rumored towards Jim Harbaugh, but I think they're a team that I like a Brian Daboll for. I like an offensive mind that can come in and coach up Justin Fields consistently, right? I think you look at some of the other young quarterbacks in the NFL where you oftentimes see them struggle is multiple offensive coordinators in the first few years. Tua Tagovailoa, a great example. 3 different coaches. I mean, he might have had 4 offensive coordinators if you count the guys who do it on early downs and the guys who do it on third and fourth downs there in Miami. So I want someone to come into Chicago with a quarterback that PFF was very high on, I think a lot of people were very high on, in Justin Fields, and actually coach them up. That's probably one of my favorite gigs.
Ian, you're wearing the Chicago C on your chest there. Are you putting your name in the hat for the head coach vacancy there?
Oh man. Now how would I talk about fantasy football then? Like,
true.
I gotta focus on my priorities. But I think everything Austin.
You could have like an alias. You could have like a ghostwriter. Like.
We get Moonlight. What's wrong with earning a little cheddar on the side?
I know. I'm sorry. Maroon Light. That's good.
That'd be like a good 2022 story. Like this head coach is not game planning because he's playing too much draft games in his spare time. But I think everything Austin just said also applies to Jacksonville Jaguars. Like this time last year, we were talking about Trevor Lawrence being the best freaking prospect since Andrew Luck at the quarterback position. So whether or not he still is that guy after what we've seen is a different conversation. But in terms of cap room, the young quarterback, I think it's a great situation. Now we wouldn't have the GM marriage that I think he might be hoping for in Chicago, obviously. So things are a little more complicated. But yeah, I wouldn't want to sign up for Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins or one of these guys.
So I think the point about Jacksonville is a really good one. I think I almost forget about it because of the stain that organization kind of has, right? I think you lose Jacksonville in this hierarchy, but I do think it's the number 1 or number 2 job.
Also the season.
They have the number 1 pick. Exactly. They have both of those things. Yeah. They have all this money in free agency. I think the reason why we don't think about Jacksonville, and the question that I want answered is, are they cursed? Is this whole franchise just cursed? Does it matter who the GM is? Does it matter who the head coach is? Because if you've got the number 1 overall pick multiple years out of a 5-year stretch, and you get Trevor Lawrence out of it, and they get whoever they want to pick at the top of the draft here, and they still can't get it done. I mean, what more could you ask for? And that's, I think, the pitch to a lot of head coaches. What more could you ask for right now?
I don't know how much of a boost Trevor Lawrence being there is to a prospective head coach. If you don't do this. You cannot come away from this season without having a lower opinion of Trevor Lawrence as a prospect than you had 12 months ago. There's obviously debate as to how much of it was his fault, how much of it was the coach, how much of it was the lack of support, and all those kinds of things. But Trevor Lawrence did not have the season, even relative to guys that turned it around as huge talents, like Andrew Luck, like Peyton Manning, the guys that he was compared to as these incredible talents. Peyton Manning set the rookie record for interceptions his first season.
He did.
And not a soul in the world came out of that year concerned about Peyton Manning. It was just oh yeah, he'll get it. He's good. these mistakes happen. He's learning from it. Manning is going to be the truth. Nobody's saying that about Lawrence right now. And if they are, it's 100% based off who they thought he was a year ago, not what he's shown on the field right now.
My opinion of that is that you're 100% right, and that no one has a higher opinion of Trevor Lawrence, right, or even the same opinion. But I don't think it's lower by a significant degree. I think it's lower. And it's maybe he's not this generational prospect, or maybe he has like an Andrew Luck-like curve, right, where you see him like that was who he was compared to. Best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck was not that good until like right when he was retiring. I think that's the type of curve you could see, especially with how much coaching turnover there's going to be and how bad the supporting cast is. I was on that free agency show with you and Steve, and we were talking a lot the draft show. We were talking a lot about, man, he's got a lot you got Marvin Jones, DJ Chark. It's like, that's not fucking good enough. Like, they don't have any top
Clearly.
25 receivers. Like, Laviska Shenault did not be what people expected him to be. This team stinks. Like, coaching staff and supporting cast, and you do have a lower opinion of Trevor Lawrence now. I get that, but I still think he's a more promising prospect than a lot of these other prospects in the open head coaching situation.
Do you have this same sort of opinion in the light that you're looking at Trevor Lawrence that you do Justin Fields? Or is it more so?
Fields
Trevor
showed
Lawrence?
so much more than Trevor Lawrence did
Okay,
in less
wow, okay.
time and with similar levels of help around him. I would be way more intrigued by Justin Fields going forward. If I was an offensive-minded head coach looking at these guys and saying, which guy do I think I can turn into something special? Like, Fields had some problems as well. There were some negatives to his game. But almost every single week you came out of it saying, all right, we're seeing good things. There's a lot to work with here. If we can just iron out the bad, we've got somewhere. Trevor Lawrence didn't show an awful lot positive, and the sort of things that were negative were things that existed in his college tape and kind of got swept under the rug because we were so convinced that he was this next Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning kind of prospect.
These are some strong takes.
It was
These are some
alarming.
strong takes.
That stretch we had where Trevor Lawrence had like one touchdown from week 8 to week 15. Zach Wilson, I don't think any of us expected these guys to drag these squads to the playoffs or anything in year one. But when you see these teams in garbage time against defenses and they still just can't even put up some semblance of numbers, how much of that can we lay on Urban Meyer and everyone else?
Guys, do you want to win the ultimate game day feast? Well, now you can. And all you have to do to win it is ask some questions. Western and Southern's financial institution is teaming up with PFF's very own Chris Collinsworth to give you the platform to ask whatever kind of questions that you want, football or financial, and every one that you do gets you a ticket to maybe win a catered event for the big game. So I'll say the words big game that goes on February 13th, 2022. I think you know what I'm talking about there. Like I said, you can ask any kind of football questions, whether it's strategy or behind the scenes on Sunday Night Football with Chris Collinsworth, maybe his old playing days. Or if you have any financial questions, no matter where you are right now, whether you're starting a family, whether you want to buy a house, or whether you just want to do the smart things with your money, you can ask the folks at Western and Southern that. All the questions you ask over at westernsouthern.com/askchris, westernsouthern.com/askchris. And like I said, every single question, whether it's football or financial or both, fire up as many questions as you want. They're going to be answered on Chris Collinsworth's podcast as well as Western Southern's Instagram, and each one is a ticket to get you a catered party for that big game on February 13th, 2022. I think you guys know what I'm talking about there. What the deal is Western Southern, if you win, they're going to team up with a local restaurant of your choosing, give you up to $2,500 of a catered event for that big event. So ask some questions. We're all in plenty of situations where we could use some financial advice, whether it's major financial advice or just making sure that we are doing the right things with our money. Go over to westernsouthern.com/askchris, ask the questions, get the answered, and maybe get a catered party as well. With Western Southern, you guys can rest assured on game day. And your bellies could be very filled.
$2,500 of Chipotle?
Whoa!
I would not go Chipotle.
Whoa!
I don't. So it's an interesting take.
I think we do that like every Sunday.
So
it would be nice to get a Sunday off.
It's a tough thing, right? Because everyone wants to gravitate towards wings, and like wings for me, it's just like kind of messy and it's hard to get into.
True. How much do you want to go?
For $2,500.
Exactly. I don't know what I would choose. I don't know what I would choose.
How much do you want to go like main course food or like finger food?
I want the photo de chao steak people walking around my apartment.
You want what?
Photo de chao.
Yes. Now
Indian food, and you got curries and rice.
You want the guy with like the half hot cheese wheel just scraping off the hot cheese right into basically a bowl, right?
Just standing there for the entire game until I call on him.
$2,500 of just a charcuterie board that goes on the full side of your back wall. I mean, like. Now, look, now that's all I'm going to be thinking about the rest of the show. But we do have to talk a little bit of football. We have to talk about the Bengals and the Titans. We previewed this a little bit, talking about how a lot of people were saying this is the worst 1 seed that ever has been, and I'm sure the Tennessee Titans are taking that as motivation. There's not a hotter team right now than the Cincinnati Bengals going into Tennessee for this matchup. Sam, where do your eyes go for this one? What's the big difference maker, and what do you think is the big storyline going into it?
Did you guys know Derrick Henry's back?
I happen to hear that, yes.
I think this is not an insignificant challenge for Tennessee to figure out sort of how they're going to manage this whole thing, right? Derrick Henry is coming back. Obviously, they've been waiting for him all season. This was the idea that this could happen if they made it this far, and the extra week of rest with the number 1 seed is huge. But what version of Derrick Henry are we getting? Like, are we getting the all-world freak, superhuman running back that's been there for the last couple of years? Or are we getting some percentage of that? And if so, have they got a way of figuring out on the fly during the game, this isn't really Derrick Henry, what do we do with this now?
Right.
Because they've run the ball fine without him. Dante Foreman is averaging the same 4.3 yards per carry that Derrick Henry was before he went down. Henry had a little bit more after contact than Foreman, but that's not the reason to sort of pivot back to Henry. And then the other thing is, all of those cliches that you have for running backs, right? They get stronger in the fourth quarter. You just keep giving them the ball, and they blast off those 50-yard runs when everybody else is tired. For almost every running back in the league, it's kind of crap, right? It doesn't really happen. It does with Henry. Statistically, you can look at it, and he is different. But
built different.
Right. But if he's not himself, if he's only 80% of Derrick Henry, is that still true?
Right.
And do you just keep handing him the ball, thinking that eventually in the fourth quarter it will come good, and it won't? That, I think, is a significant thing that they need to be thinking about before the game. Have planned out, if this isn't really Derrick Henry, do we have a plan to pivot away? And maybe the biggest thing he brings to this game is almost like a decoy and the ability to manipulate defenses for the pass game, for the play-action shots to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones.
I think quite literally, Derrick Henry is built different this week. He has 4 or 5 different screws in his foot, a metal plate in his foot, and a metal plate in his shoe. And I do think that you hit a nail on the head. I was going to say the same point. They need to be very varietous with their game plan, depending on. I don't know.
I have no idea if it's a word.
They need to preach variety in their game plan, because if you go into this game and you're we're going to, opening 15 plays, opening 20 plays, try and establish Derrick Henry or get him heavily involved, and you see it's not working, right? Or you see this metal plate slipping or whatever it may be, I think you have to have a secondary or tertiary game plan where you're able to actually go in and play with your really good receivers, right? The Tennessee Titans have only played roughly under 200 offensive snaps where Henry, Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown have been on the field. All 3 are healthy for this game. There's a lot of newness in that, right? There's a lot of mouths to feed, and if you start to put a lot of your chips in one basket, the guy with the metal foot, and then you need to make changes, I think you have to have that ready, right? You can't go into this game for four quarters, we're going to just pound Derrick Henry, because it might not work. And I do think that they need to be able to reel it in, use him as this decoy, right? Let linebackers rush on play action and open it up to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones.
And this is it seems like a really easy thing to immediately spot when something's not working. But you're dealing with just a few plays here or there. A series can be 3 and out, right? A series can be 5 plays. It's very difficult to sort of figure out, is that Derrick Henry not being 100%, or is that just a badly blocked play that had no shot in the first place?
I think the decoy point is really huge, though, because defenses And the splits with and without Henry are a little tough because we had Julio and AJB banged up during the same portions. But in the first half of the season with Derrick Henry, Tannehill is our highest graded passer, throwing against boxes of at least 8 defenders. Now, I expected to see the rate of those throws against those loaded boxes to, probably go just not be the same like it was in the second half of the year. So basically, defenses, had the same amount of defenders in the box with or without Henry. The difference was Tannehill's performance actually in those situations. So I do wonder, just having Henry back there, because do defensive coordinators really look at it that much different? I'm not sure that's a conversation. But we know when we have, the safeties back there, looking across the line of scrimmage, and you see Derrick Henry, that is a different animal. So Austin brought up only about, 200 snaps, I think it was, with all three. Tannehill, though, in those situations, 9.4 yards per attempt, 8.2 with just Julio or AJB. All of a sudden, he's in the 5s, without any of them. So that'll be the key, because Tannehill, no, he's not Joe Burrow, and I think we talk about in, really great quarterbacks, but can they elevate their surrounding cast? I'm not sure that's Tannehill, but he is a sum of its parts quarterbacks, and right now the parts are pretty damn good.
Right. Yeah. No, and he has the parts with him, and so you've got to think that maybe that ceiling is going to show up here today as they face the Bengals. On the other side of things, you mentioned Joe Burrow's name. Hard to find a quarterback that's playing better than Joe Burrow right now, and you talk about having the weapons around Ryan Tannehill to make things happen. I mean, Burrow is 4 or 5 players deep, including the running backs and the tight ends, that he could go to at literally any time. And he has shown that he has such confidence going to Jamar Chase, going to T. Higgins, going to all of these guys. And man, it is on Tate, big shout out. It's just it's so hard to bet against this team when they are doing things the right way. I think the question is, guys, how much faith do we have that the Bengals are going to go about this game the right way? Because, man, if you go into Tennessee and you go, all right, let's get our feet underneath us. Let's run the ball for the first couple of drives. Let's figure things out. Like, all of a sudden, if Tennessee comes out of the gate and it's hot, it's not like, I don't want to say a point differential is too much for Burrow and that offense to overcome, and I think that's where they've really been able to absolve themselves some sins this year. But you don't want to have to do that. Don't let the Titans get the run game involved early on, right? I mean, what do we think the right script is here for the Bengals, even with a really confident quarterback?
I mean, obviously, the best thing the Bengals can do is give the ball to Joe Burrow and let him work. The biggest concern they have, though, is that offensive line is not good. And it's never been good this season, but they've been forced into the bench. It's banged up. They've had to turn to backups. And when you have to turn to backups from a group that was already not great to begin with, it's a real problem. The Raiders got pressure on Burrow by 36% of the time, which is not catastrophic for an offense, but it's getting up there. Burrow is good enough right now that sometimes it just doesn't matter, right? The Raiders got him under pressure quite a lot. He threw the touchdown with the early whistle under pressure. He played out of his mind under pressure, and it just wasn't enough, right? But that's the nature of pressure, is that sometimes it's still not going to be enough. The quarterback can make it work, but generally speaking, over the long haul, it's going to be a problem. If the Titans can get him under pressure a lot in this game, and they don't have the same kind of pass rush that the Raiders do, but if they can get after Burrow, like he has been sort of riding his luck for a while under pressure.
They aren't a great pass rush, but we talked about this before the Bengals-Ravens games. Like, Burrow's our best, highest graded passer against the blitz. When you blitz him, you might get pressure, but it's still going to be bad news for that secondary. The Titans are number 1 in the league at 26.8% in simulated pressure. So they're only sending 4 guys, but they have a bunch of creepers, near the line of scrimmage, threatening to go. And if they're able to confuse this offensive line with that and not having to send extra bodies to create the pressure, that's where Burrow, I think, can just look a little bit more above average, because he's incredible. Like, we're not going to make Burrow look, like a pumpkin or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But if you're the Titans, you'll settle for him not looking like the best quarterback alive. So I think not sending extra bodies, still be able to get pressure, and then letting Kevin Byard and Amani Hooker be the great, backbone of that defense that they've been all season. That's your path to success. But again, that's more scheme. And then I can also look at it and say, can Jackrabbit Jenkins cover Jamar Chase for even 1 second of this game? And I think the answer is probably.
I mean, there's a handful of points there. The reason they lead the NFL in these simulated pressures is because they don't blitz a ton. 26th highest blitz rate in the NFL. They don't need to blitz, right? Like, they try to create pressure through these different ways. Joe Burrow, one of the highest graded quarterbacks against the blitz. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, the only two that are higher graded when facing the blitz. They don't need to get pressure. I think when they do get pressure on him, it's a worse Joe Burrow. But it's hard to find a metric at PFF where Joe Burrow is in top 3. It's highest graded in clean pocket, highest graded overall now when you include the game against Las Vegas. And where it shows up is not Kevin Byard. It's not Amani Hooker. It is on the outside. You had Jackrabbit Jenkins miss the Wednesday practice with an ankle injury. He did practice Thursday, but can't imagine he's fully healthy, and he's going to be going against a lot of Jamar Chase. We saw Desmond Trufant against Jamar Chase. Right. Things did not go well. Yep. Joe Burrow is the highest graded quarterback in the NFL when throwing to outside receivers because of Jamar Chase, because of T. Higgins and what he has. The Titans have allowed the 7th most yards to outside receivers this season. They don't have to go through the middle of the defense because they don't want to. But if they get on the outside, which they could against Vegas and they could against Baltimore and they could against the Chiefs, it's going to be a lot of scoring. And the only thing that's keeping the Bengals from being the Bengals is themselves. Zach Taylor needs to go in with some throats to step on, throwing the ball early, and get out to a lead.
Bengals getting 3 points, 3.5 points, something like that in this game. What do we think about that line, and who would be taken? I just got 3.5 in my ear, so we're going off 3.5.
I think it's a fair line, and I think Cincinnati are absolutely live underdogs. But I think the Tennessee Titans are getting disrespected way too much from what they've done this season. Yes, they haven't been a particularly good team over the course of the year. On the other hand, everybody of consequence has been injured. So of course they haven't been particularly good. When you look at the teams that they beat and the run they went on in the middle of the year to kind of put themselves in position for that number 1 seed, they're legit teams, and it was like back to back beating them. Getting Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry all in the lineup at the same time, if Derrick Henry is himself, like that could easily make them worth that number 1 seed. And I think I will lean with them at home.
Okay, so you got the Titans overcoming the 3.5. What are you doing, Ian?
3.5 is a good line. I parlayed the Titans and Packers money line shortly before the show, but I think everything Sam said makes sense. The fact that Mike Vrabel is now on this basically Tomlin trajectory, like where is it even possible for this guy to have a losing season? All credit to Zach Taylor for showing up at the Cincinnati bar after last week. That was an awesome move, cool guy move, but give me the Titans.
What about you,
I'm in on Cincinnati, and it's not because, and I do think that the Titans' disrespect has been overstated, right? And I do agree with you that they've been wrongfully, discredited as this one seed. But I think it's two really good football teams. One has a better quarterback, and if Joe Burrow goes in and plays like he has in these games against Baltimore and Kansas City, these games that I keep bringing up, where he threw for 900 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2 freaking games, Zach Taylor gives them that opportunity, throwing early, getting him out to the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins of the world. I do feel really good about Cincinnati beating a very good Tennessee Titans team. It's not because I'm disrespecting the Titans. I like them to cover and win.
I can't believe you just disrespected Titans like that, bro.
Well, I was going to say, I'm one of those people who has disrespected the Titans all year. And I'm going to do it again now. It has not worked. It has not worked for me yet. When they were on that win streak and just beating these teams in the middle of the season, I kept going. They can't win all of them, right? And they just continued to win all of them. But
I respect you for keep putting your hand back on that.
I got to do it. If I'm nothing else, I'm stubborn. There are seasons within the season in an NFL season, and I do think that even though the Titans were able to prove it earlier this year with the same players that they have now, I do think that just things are different. Things get different when you get a couple months. It is a week-to-week league. When you get a couple of months removed from when you win those games. And so I think the Bengals win. I'm taking them and the money line here.
Hell yeah.
San Francisco 49ers, Green Bay Packers. So much history. This is your dad's game, right? Like this is the game that's just so rich. These exact teams have been playing for 30 decades. No, of course not. Okay, so it's Kyle Shanahan, it's Matt LaFleur, but there is a lot of, I don't want to say bad blood between these two teams, but familiarity, I think, between these two teams. They've played 4 times over the last 2 seasons, going back to 2019. They're 2-2. This is the Game 5, the rubber match, if you will, with everything on the line here. We talked about it at the top of the show. Hard to think of a team that's a greater mismatch, I guess, with everything that the 49ers are able to bring to the table offensively, going up against a Green Bay Packers team that has rested the last couple of weeks and is getting really healthy now going into this one. So I'm curious, how much faith do you guys have in Aaron Rodgers and the Packers playing their first real game in a couple of weeks here, going up against a 49ers team that nobody seems to want to play right now?
This feels like a game where both offenses are going to roll. I'm not sure either defense has a tremendous chance of stopping the opposition. Like when you look at that 49ers offense, the thing they want to do right away is establish the run, get some dominance on the ground. Deebo Samuel can run the ball. They are really, really good. And since week 10, Green Bay has had the worst run defense in the NFL, bottom in yards per carry allowed. I'm sad Eric isn't here because, gooey. Gooey is his term for the Green Bay run defense. They have been the gooeyest since week 10 on.
What? This is true. I can attest to that. This is the word he's used multiple times
gooey's
on the
negative?
show. Yeah.
Well, look, think about it.
Soft.
How much of a chance is a gooey thing going to have of stopping a ground
sticky,
game?
Right? It could. I don't want to talk about it.
So I think the 49ers offense is going to have success. We saw what a very similar offense did to this Green Bay defense a couple of years ago in the NFC Championship game. I know it's a different Green Bay team, it's a different 49ers team, but a lot of those components are the same, and I don't know if that Packers defense has fixed those issues.
It definitely haven't, right? Green Bay is last in yards per carry allowed, they're last in EPA per play allowed. They are not good on runs. They're a very bad run defense. I do think it matters that they're getting Zadarius Smith back and Whitney Merciless. That matters. Getting some help there along the defensive line is a huge factor in this one. I think it could help them stop the run. My thing is, and this might be a little tinfoil hat, but they know that's what they have to stop.
Double bluff.
You have to know that you're going to go into this game and they're going to try and run the ball and your run defense stinks. Fix it, because if you make Jimmy G beat you, you'll win. That's the period. And I know that's simplifying game plans.
All they have to do is look at their biggest weakness and fix it.
They're making multi-million-dollar decisions. But I'm just saying, it's so obvious how the 49ers win this game. It's obvious. They're able to run against the worst run defense in the NFL. Green Bay, put the ball in Jimmy G's hands and you win. I do think that's it.
Don't you think that it's different? The same. So one of the things about defending the run, right, is that generally speaking, it's kind of like a conscious decision.
It's a mindset.
If you just stack the box with extra bodies, you stop the run. Now, it comes at a cost, right? Obviously, every guy you put in the box is somebody that's not playing coverage, and that exposes you to some risk in the passing game. So Tampa Bay against Philly last week, great example, right? They just stacked the box, they run blitzed every single down, and they said, we don't think you can beat us over the top, so we're going to play that way.
And then they didn't give Devontae Smith a target until like the third quarter.
But if you do that against the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan's offense has built in a ton of stuff over the top that's easy. That's not even like risky with Jimmy G. It's those passes that you see where all of a sudden George Kittle's catching the ball and there's nobody within 10 yards of him. Like, they can stop the run, and they could do it if they wanted to, but it's a hell of a lot more dangerous against this offense than most.
He doesn't get a ton of style points, and we have stats to help show that. You know, Mark Slurs was hitting on air yards the other week. But, like, average target depth, things like that, they can help show you why Jimmy G, even though since week 9, Garoppolo is first in yards per attempt in the league. He's got the 5th highest PFF passing grade. He's 4th in adjusted completion rate. But does anyone out there think that Jimmy G is a top 5 quarterback? No. But you know what? All these yards are created the same. Whether or not Jimmy G throws a 20-yard pass as pretty as Aaron Rodgers, it still counts as 20 yards. So 26 in a big-time throw rate, that's lower than Teddy Bridgewater. Like, truly.
He has 10 on the year.
Yeah, can't overstate like how not sexy Jimmy G's style of play is, at least.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. We were about to get into real dangerous lying out of our teeth categories. But
I think this idea that they can't throw the ball.
He's second in the NFL in yards per attempt. Odie Burrow is higher over the course of the year.
Now, sometimes is it a little
6-inch throws?
Yes.
Sometimes it's
Which
a little 6-inch toss to Debo.
No, but there's a difference, right? Like, there's a difference in making them throw the ball and making Jimmy G beat you, right? Like, they can throw the ball, and how they've thrown the ball successfully is they low average depth of target and letting Debo and they throw the ball in their terms, exactly. Not only does he have a lower rate than Teddy Bridgewater, he only has 10 total. I think you mentioned that. The only quarterback that started this season, like for multiple games, that has lower than that is Daniel Jones. Aaron Rodgers has 3 times that, more than 3 times that. Like, that's absurd. I do think that you have to limit the shallow passing attack in the run game. And I know that's easier said than done. And I know the game plans, it's a lot harder than that. But, like, if you make Jimmy G make that throw that he had to make to Brandon Ayuk where he's wide the hell open against Trayvon Diggs 10 times, he's going to miss half. You know, and that's the win. Not half. He's going to miss a lot of them, though. He's going to miss a lot of them. And
but that's the situation you want to put him in.
Exactly. You want him throwing that wide open pass to Brandon Ayuk more than you want him handing the ball off and dumping the 6 inches to Debo Samuel.
Final thing, we've talked a bunch about Debo. Trent Williams won our offensive player of the year, Jimmy G and all this. How about Elijah Mitchell, though? 254 touches this year.
Rookie.
Not a single fumble, not a single drop.
Yeah.
Only shout out Devontae Freeman. He finished with like 160. He's the only other guy that was over 70. So like this just isn't normal. And we've seen Kyle Shanahan have players go into his doghouse for extended stretches, shift a running back here or there. Mitchell's never given him a chance. So, the fact this offense can stay on track, I think Elijah Mitchell deserves maybe a little more credit than he does in you real football streets. Us fantasy footballers have always known.
So what you're saying is he's due.
I'm saying he matters.
in a little bit of a tribute to the spirit of Eric. Eric said that Jimmy G is of the Kirk Cousins mold.
Not a win in Lambeau
and
guy.
Kirk is not a win in Lambeau guy, and so ergo.
Is there a quarterback Eric hasn't compared to Kirk Cousins? I want to know. Maybe like 3 of them.
It is a security.
It reminds me of Kirk Cousins.
Cousins is a 0. I mean, he's like -1 plus.
It is. Everything comes back to Kirk Cousins.
It's like that. I don't even want to talk. Never mind.
So, guys, if you want to get all of these fantastic premium stats that you hear us throwing around here on the desk, you can do so by getting yourself a PFF subscription. Head on over to PFF.com. There's 2 different subscription models that we have, Edge and Elite. You can see exactly what you get with both of them, the different price points. The Edge obviously allows you to view some premium content, look at some premium stats, but man, the Elite subscription gives you absolutely everything. The fantasy tools, the NFL draft tools, all premium content, so many different kinds of premium stats for different players and teams. We'll have tons of big-time free agency previews as well that you're going to be able to take a look at over the next couple of months heading into free agency. You can get everything you want over with an Elite subscription. But either one, if you don't have one, head on over to PFF.com, get yourself one, be a smarter football fan. Sam, I know we talked about Jimmy G a lot there, and reluctantly, I think that talking about missing wide open Brandon Ayuk half the time. There are some other teams around the NFL that are also in quarterback conundrums, not knowing exactly what to do. You wrote an article on PFF.com kind of ranking these quarterback issues with some of these teams, or at least putting them in tiers. I'd love to hear kind of what teams around the NFL you think are the most desperate for a quarterback right now.
Yeah, essentially gauging each team's need for a quarterback heading into the team building season, right? Free agency, the draft is upcoming. If you don't have a QB, now's your time to actually try and get one. So the first group I have is these like nothing else matters teams, right? You've reached the point where I don't care what else you do this offseason. If you do not get a quarterback, you might as well blow the whole thing up and start over. Denver, I think, are definitely in that category. Look, they just got rid of their head coach because they never found a quarterback.
That's true. I don't even know if it was his fault.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like this,
Drew Lock 3 or 4 more years.
Yeah, of course. It's just Drew Lock season, but Drew Lock needs an heir, right? We need somebody to groom behind Drew Lock so that this team can actually win a game.
Favre, Rodgers, that's what we're,
The end of Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. Like, I don't think anybody really has any kind of confidence in Mason Rudolph as the future. Does. I don't know that he does.
Or Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
No, Haskins or Rudolph, this is like, why is it between McLovin and Muhammad? What are we doing?
I mean, Pittsburgh absolutely need a new starter.
It's a good
It's a great reference.
That was a
great
good
reference.
pull.
Like, unironically, they're bringing this up. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Carolina. I mean, the Sam Darnold thing hasn't worked. The Cam Newton thing didn't work. PJ, come on. Look, we need a quarterback in Carolina. Washington football team, they got a bit unlucky because Ryan Fitzpatrick got injured, basically didn't play this season. Heineke didn't really work out. They need one. And then the Detroit Lions. And writing this article, I discovered that there is a small group of Lions fans that think Jared Goff was pretty good.
Yeah. No, I've written some mock drafts where you mention like they should maybe go after a quarterback, and they're like, no.
They're mad.
No, they're mad. They want
even with like the back end first round pick?
Well, I think a big to kind of jump into this, I do think that Jared Goff and the cap hit in 2022 is so big.
NFC Player of the Week.
Now,
you put some respect on his name.
The bottom line is Jared Goff is obviously not the long-term solution, but because they have it's like a $34 million cap hit next year for Jared Goff. Like, just investing in a quarterback again just doesn't make a ton of sense for Josh Allen. I mean, for the Buffalo Bills.
That's okay.
The Detroit Lions.
How about the Panthers, by the way, needing a rock star OC for Matt Rule and then
Ben McAdoo. But which haircut are we getting? That's what I want to know.
The slick back one is lit.
Because, he's got the let it free one with him and the Giants polo, and then he has just like the straight like Matrix slick back one.
He's got to come in with a complete, like a third one for the new job.
Either way, Odell's getting over 1,000 yards with the Panthers next year. Somehow, some way, it's going to happen. Because that's why McAdoo was good.
I do love that from your dare I say the Washington football team will be cruising to a playoff. Mm-hmm. You already have them in the need a quarterback situation. I'm just glad you're on my side because I've been on
one anyway.
I've been on the anti-Taylor Heineke train for a while. Like, it's just like I don't understand. Like, call him this roller coaster in the NFL. Like,
he wasn't this year.
No, and he hasn't really been in his career. He has like 4 games graded above 70 in his career. Like, what roller coaster are we on?
One of them was the playoff game, right?
Yeah, one of them was that playoff game. I get that. And island games matter because more people watch them. But everyone was like, oh man, if you get the high side variance of Taylor Heineke, he can be a really fun, good quarterback. It's like, no, what high side? There is no high side. This guy stinks. If he was not a success story.
Please, he can't keep doing this.
Yeah,
was there another team that you wanted to mention?
No, not in the nothing else matters category. That's all the desperate teams.
Okay. All right. Okay. You are on the clock, by the way, because if you don't somehow tweet out the meme, why the F would it be between that? Would it be between Rudolph and Haskins? I'm gonna steal it from you. So you have a 24-hour window to create this meme, or I'm tweeting it because that was incredible, guys. Prize Pick'ems and prop bets from Underdog Fantasy is the best way to spice up the playoffs. It's very simple. You just go to UnderdogFantasy.com or the app. You check out what stat lines they have for each player, and you select over/under. You win yourself some money. If you go over right now, they're running a special for this weekend's games. Deebo Samuel's over/under prop. 1 yard, folks. 1. So that's a guaranteed dub. All you have to do is pair that with another one or a string of bets that you have. Really get that multiplier up. Get yourself some extra money, but you're already starting off with a free win with the Deebo Samuel one. If you use PFF as a promo code when you sign up right now, you are going to get a free PFF subscription. That's right, a free PFF Edge subscription. Head on over to UnderdogFantasy.com or the app. Get in on the prop bets that they have there. Spice up the playoffs a little bit. If you're whether your team's in it or not, it's a great way to have some skin in the game, no matter what game you are watching. Sunday slate. Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've talked about a rubber match for a couple of these games here. this is another one where the Rams, well, I guess it's not a rubber match because the Rams faced off against the Buccaneers last season, beat them. Faced off against the Buccaneers this season, beat them. But I think there's reason to believe the Rams haven't faced what people assume to be as the real Buccaneers. Now, there are some people banged up on the Bucs roster, but there are also some people banged up on the Rams roster, and all of this is going to come into effect here. Brady, Stafford, McVay. Really, McVay, I'm not even going to say McVay versus Arians. Really, it's McVay versus Bowles, and it's another chapter of that matchup. Sam, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think those injuries that you mentioned are potentially really serious turning points in this game. We saw last week the impact that a hurt Tristan Wirfs has on this offense. Tom Brady has been the least pressured quarterback in the NFL this season, the only guy to be pressured less than 20% of his dropbacks. When Tristan Wirfs got hurt, he was sacked 4 times against the Eagles. So it wasn't just that it got a little bit worse. It was that all of a sudden he's facing these immediate pressure plays that he simply is not used to having at all this year. And Brady's already got the second fastest average time to throw in the NFL this year. So it's not like you can say, all right, if Wirfs goes out there and he's a little bit hurt, just speed up the process a little bit. We're already pretty close to the cutting edge in terms of how fast he can get the ball out of his hands. And then the other thing is, I think it sounds like Tristan Wirfs is probably going to go in this game and play, but he's probably not going to be 100%.
Right.
And there is definitely going to be a point at which you're better off just putting a healthy backup out there than a hobbled Tristan Wirfs. This is a guy who had the lowest pressure rate allowed of any tackle in the NFL this year, but he got run over by Ryan Kerrigan the second he went back out there with a busted ankle last week. If he's anything like that player, they shouldn't have him in the lineup.
The injuries along the offensive line on both sides are like big factors in this game. No Andrew Whitworth in this game. He's officially listed as out. They're going to be playing Joseph Noteboom. You have banged up Tristan Wirfs, and you have a banged up Ryan Jensen. My pick, I'm going to tease it a little bit. I'm leaning Bucs. But if you find out minutes before kick here that Wirfs is not playing or he's not 100%, same with Jensen, in this type of a game where it's a 3-point spread and the Bucs are favored at home, I do think I like the Rams. I think it's that big of a matchup, right? I do think it's that important for Wirfs to be healthy for the Bucs to cover and win. Now, if they are healthy and they play as well as they have in their careers, right? Tristan Wirfs not only hasn't allowed the lowest pressure rate this season, over the last 2 years, no offensive tackle has allowed a lower pressure rate. Like, he matters big time for this Bucs team, especially for what they want to do on offense, both in the passing game and in the running game. If he's not healthy, there should be a lot of backing for the Rams.
And I also think the Rams on defense can sort of make the problem worse, right? They have guys like Jalen Ramsey. They
got that other guy, Donald.
Yeah.
That's
probably a factor as well.
Yeah.
But the Tampa Bay offense has not been the same since they've lost all their receivers, right? No Chris Godwin, no Antonio Brown. It's Mike Evans and Gronk that have to get this thing done. Tom Brady doesn't trust any of the other receivers. Yeah. So all of a sudden you have a Jalen Ramsey, you can say, right, go take away Mike Evans. And now the entire thing has got to go somewhere else. And every single snap, Brady has to adjust and maybe trust a Tyler Johnson or a Scotty Miller. And that's going to take more time, which is more time that offensive line has to hold up.
And Jalen Ramsey versus Mike Evans has been incredible. Jalen Ramsey has done a really good job at limiting Mike Evans in his career. And I think the other factor to that too is you bring up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense not looking as good without Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown. Third-ranked offense in EPA per pass before those injuries, before what it called the Antonio Brown injury. And since then they have been 7th. Now the reason they're 7th and the reason I am backing the Bucs is because of TB. TB12 makes a lot of things different. TB12 on any team makes them a Super Bowl contender. I do think that is going to be one of the most under-discussed things here because everyone wants, even myself, Tristan Wirfs, no Antonio Brown, Donald. The most important player in this game is Tom Brady. The best player in this game is Tom Brady, and he's the better quarterback at home.
And that's what made
best player is Tom Brady.
You don't think the best player in this game is Tom Brady? The highest rated quarterback according to PFF?
The best player in this game is Aaron Donald.
Whoa,
No, you're high.
What's Aaron Donald?
What's Aaron Donald's value? You're high.
What's Aaron Donald's
I'm not including position value.
Why not?
Yeah, you have to.
How many times has Aaron Donald touched the ball in the game?
Because you said the best player.
Yeah, the best player. The most valuable player.
Is a better
most valuable
player.
and best are different.
Okay,
We've been over this.
I disagree.
Okay, as I was trying
fake
to say.
football you guys are talking about where positional value isn't a thing.
Just hit him. Just hit him.
Just hit him. As Austin was saying before, a bunch of that nonsense. Ramsey has done a great job against Mike Evans last year. 4 catches, 40 yards on 7 targets. And this has been one of only 4 guys that the Rams have said, okay, go out and shadow him. Because Ramsey did that all the time in Jacksonville, not so much in LA. It's only been Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, and Justin Jefferson that have earned the treatment. So at that point, it's tough. And look, guys, we saw this in week 3. Different teams, but But this was a banged-up Tampa Bay defense, but a healthier offensive line. And what happened? Brady got pressured on 19 of 60 dropbacks. That Week 15 Saints massacre, he got pressured on 15 dropbacks. Those are the only times all season that he was even in double digits. So now we have a lesser version of that behind Brady. And yes, I know it's tempting to go Brady versus Stafford. You know, come on, what are we doing here? But what was Brady's last playoff loss? Ryan freaking Tannehill in 2019. I think we would have had a similar, line of thinking then. And what was the difference with that offense? All of his weapons were gone.
Yeah. And for everybody in Tampa, we thank you, Ryan Tannehill, for giving Brady the L so that he could move to Tampa. A schematic matchup that I really wanted to touch on before we moved on to our last game is, I mentioned it, McVay versus Todd Bowles specifically. And the reason why that matters is because, Sam, you talked about how when you bring pressure against Kyle Shanahan, he kind of builds those things in that make it easier for the quarterback to really find exactly at least where they should go, where they should look. Well, that's been the case with Stafford. Stafford on the year has a passing grade for us right around 80. I think it's a little bit above 80. It's like 80.5, something like that. When pressured, when he's blitzed, it goes all the way up to 88.8. Like, it is significantly higher when the blitz comes at him. And that matters specifically for this matchup because only one team in the NFL has blitzed more than the Buccaneers, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Todd Bowles blitz at a rate of 43% of his play calls are bringing an extra player involved to go get pressure. That is what he does. That is his bread and butter. And when Stafford was blitzed by the Buccaneers in Week 3, he went 9 for 11, 91 yards, a touchdown, no turnovers. And so it's just like Tampa was super beat up at corner, and so like a lot of that matters. And I think Todd Bowles was really trying to get pressure after Stafford because he just didn't even trust the banged up guys in the secondary to be able to hold on that long. So all of those things go into it, but clearly Stafford at least knows where to look in this offense when guys bring the blitz to him. I'm curious to see what Todd Bowles does. Does he stick to his guns? Does he blitz as much as he wants to? Or do we see something a little bit different from him?
I mean, the bag's going to be open for him, right? I think something we haven't talked about a ton with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is they are getting a ton of health back, a ton of players back on defense. Sean Murphy-Bunting healthy, Antoine Winfield Jr. healthy, or I think Bunting's officially questionable, but should be playing. Barrett's back, Levante David's back. Like, this defense was banged up down the stretch. In the playoffs, looking a lot better. I think Todd Bowles will be in his bag a bit with the blitzes and those things. And I haven't been on this show a ton, but I've never understood the Stafford hate. I think Stafford's good. Like,
Thank you. You're invited back. You're always invited back. We're getting a fifth chair right here, and it's going to be empty unless you're in it.
We bring up these stats with Matthew Stafford, and we're like, it's actually crazy. Like, when under the blitz, he's good. It's like, no, Matthew Stafford's good, right? Like, Matthew Stafford is a good quarterback. Is he as good as Tom Brady? No. But going against Todd Bowles, I think it will throw him fits. And he is due for the occasional, oh my gosh, I just threw a pick into triple coverage. But a lot of quarterbacks are. I think Stafford's going to be generally good. Todd Bowles gets the best from him in this
Last week, Cooper Kupp only had 61 yards and a touchdown, and Stafford was fantastic, and the Rams won in style.
Well, Stafford hate stops now.
That's the descriptor, though, right? Matthew Stafford, generally good, right? But it's the other times that are the problem. Like, generally good, but the other time he's throwing the ball to the defense.
Which, I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks like that, right? And I think the generally good is good.
His best two grades of the season, last week obviously was one of them, and week 1, I think, they're the only 2 games in the year where they're the lowest 2 games in terms of volume, in terms of dropbacks. So the less he has to drop back and pass the ball, the better a Matthew Stafford you're going to get. If the Bucs can take away the run game in a way that the Cardinals couldn't even think about doing last week and force Matthew Stafford to bear a greater burden in this game, that's where you get the ridiculous interceptions. Right?
Our producers put in the chat who's the best. I can't remember if the wording was who's more important in this game, Brady or Aaron Donald, and Brady had 66% of the votes and Aaron Donald had 30%.
I mean, it's not even close. Like,
yes.
I also,
if you run a push poll, that's the result you're going to get.
I also don't understand.
Get absolutely wrecked, Sam. How does it feel?
I have frustration. Like, it's like you say who's the best player in this game, and you're like, well, not including position value. Like, that's a fairy tale game. The game is real. Like, the real game, who's the most valuable player? It's Tom Brady. Fairy tales could tell you Donald's better than Brady.
You have a history on this episode of this show of inventing words. I think you need to understand the difference between value and best.
No, I don't. The best player in this game.
Look, just because he wants to talk about the varieticity of the Titans run game.
Who's the best player in the NFL draft? You says Aiden Hutchinson. Why is it not Kenny Pickett or someone?
Well, that's different because that's different.
That was it? I thought we were going to throw fisticuffs there. That was different. That was all.
It's different. Just trust me.
Jeez. All right, fine. Well, I guess we'll move on to the last game that we're talking about here. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. This one is about a rubber match. AFC Championship game last year. Kansas City Chiefs won. They advanced to the Super Bowl. Buffalo Bills spent all offseason just playing that game throughout the facility, everywhere they could, to say, we've got to beat this team. They went out and they drafted like it. They constructed their team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and then earlier this year, that is exactly what they did. They put it on the Chiefs, and they won in pretty dominant fashion. Now, these two teams, I think, are at very different spots. Well, I don't want to say very different than the Bills because they were on a roll then. They are on a roll now. But the Chiefs feels like are closer to that identity that we believe that they are. So these two teams really almost at full strength of what we would believe they could be going into this matchup. What do you think about it, Sam?
The whole game, I think, comes down to what kind of Josh Allen are we going to get in this game. Last week, the highest single game grade we've given all season, 94.8, I think was his final grade. The best game anybody's had. It's his fourth game of the season with a PFF grade above 90. Patrick Mahomes has not had one of those all year long. The last time he was above 90 for a single game was last year's AFC Championship game against the Bills. He hasn't been above 85 in any single game this season.
Wow.
Mahomes has not been playing at the level we normally associate with Mahomes. And Josh Allen has actually hit that level in certain games this year. He's obviously unlikely to have another game with like a 95 grade, but if he gets anywhere near that, he's probably going to be the better quarterback in this game.
And I think he does. I think Josh Allen does not 95, but I think he has another really, really good game because I think he has the better matchup. I think the Kansas City Chiefs defense is not as good as what the Bills offer. The Bills finished the season first in EPA per play allowed, first against the pass, first against the run, first in scoring drive percentage. This Bills defense is legit. It's going to limit Patrick Mahomes more than Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense, and I think Josh Allen shows up. Josh Allen goes toe-to-toe in Arrowhead where it's not supposed to be that cold. I think it's in the 30s or high 30s. He goes toe-to-toe and out-duels Patrick Mahomes because he's capable of it, right? And I think he has finally found his groove to where you can start to get a semblance of consistency from Josh Allen. I think they're the better team. I think today, not overall, but today, Josh Allen is the better quarterback.
It's probably when Mahomes can have the worst year of his career. It was just by pretty much any statistical metric. We saw it for like a 6-week period. They can only really ball out against the Raiders. Chiefs, #1 EPA per pass play. Even their relative worst version of themselves is still a more efficient passing offense than anyone else in the NFL. That's why I am rolling with Patrick Mahomes and company. Yes, Josh Allen not his best, can give these guys a lot of problems, but guys, it's still Patrick Mahomes. He's only seeing 2 points. I mean, the last time that we actually saw Chiefs be outright underdogs was that early season Ravens game in 2020. Anytime it's close to that even, I just got to do it.
It's pretty crazy how much people are picking the Niners, how much people are picking the Bills, and like good reason. I don't think that they're flawed. I don't think they're illogical, but it's crazy that so many people this weekend are picking against Aaron Rodgers. So many people are picking against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Not a lot of people are picking the Niners to win, right? I mean, the Niners spread is larger.
Well,
right?
I think Mahomes has also helped he's overcome throughout the year some of the problems I think the Bills brought to the forefront before anyone. I mean, they did not blitz Mahomes a single time in that first game, and then we saw the Titans debacle, and it was like, what's going on
here?
They
created the blueprint that everyone else is following.
Now for the better part of the last six weeks, having guys like Jerick McKinnon, that third option in the passing game, it's gone a long way.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people picking Buffalo, and I'm one of them, right? I think the Bills will actually win this game, but we shouldn't undersell the task in front of them. Patrick Mahomes is still phenomenal. Even a relative down year for him is still good enough to have that offense moving at will, to be one of the best scoring offenses in the NFL, to just be productive and be capable of pulling out a ridiculous play at any given moment. The Chiefs' defense, it's not as good as Buffalo's, but it's still capable of wrecking your day.
Yeah.
Right? Chris Jones can go out there and beat any single member along that Buffalo offensive line and be in Josh Allen's lap anytime during the course of the game. Kansas City is a really good team, but I think that Josh Allen being as good as he is right now, it's like a cheat code in certain times. When they need a play, Josh Allen is the guy that's doing it, whether it's through the air or on the ground, right? 3rd and 1, 3rd and short. Josh Allen can win with power, with speed, with his arm. Like, you can't defend that. There's too many ways he can win.
He's #1 in yards per carry. That's crazy.
And when you compare the situation Josh Allen is in and the offense coordinator that he has and what he's done to prop up Josh Allen's talents, and then you compare that to what Zach Taylor's done in Cincinnati, it's like when it's all working, you can see Joe Burrow be the highest grade quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
The thing is for Buffalo is it's all working, and it's been now for 2 years, and that's why you're seeing the Josh Allen you're seeing.
They figured out how to use him.
Exactly.
Like there's a great play against New England. It was the second drive Buffalo had, right? They got the interception from Micah Hyde. They drove down. It's 3rd and 4. If the Patriots actually hold them here, that might be a completely different game. So they run this play where they split everybody out wide, empty set, so there's now only 5 guys in the box. Then Allen just plows up the middle for 4 yards. Like most quarterbacks, that's simply not in the playbook.
6 for 7 in his career on design runs out of empty on 3rd or 4th down. It's unstoppable.
Wow. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. No, that is. He feels like this battering ram cheat code on 3rd and short. He really does.
He's 6'5", 240. Like,
I mean,
right.
This might be absurd, but like how the Bills use Josh Allen is very similar to how the Cowboys use Micah Parsons. Like they know what he's good at, and they let him do whatever the hell he wants. QB fucking empty. They let him run on these. They have him these design QB runs. They let him throw down the field. I mean, it's very similar. They're just like, hey, we have a really good player, and we're gonna let him do whatever we want.
I mean, what Josh Allen is the answer to the question, like, what if Cam Newton could pass accurately? Like, that's what we're talking about here. It's MVP Cam Newton.
Cam slander.
MVP Cam Newton with some actual accurate passing.
I'm upset. I can't respond to that. I'm upset.
We did a poll from the producers once again to the YouTube chat. Who you got, Mahomes or Josh Allen?
Allen. They picked Allen.
Recency bias is a hell of a drug.
They picked Allen.
59%. They picked Josh Allen.
Yeah.
That is.
I know the chat.
You do. You do. If there's anything that you are, it is habitually online. So you understand where we're coming from there. We got Darius Butler on the line. We're going to get to his picks on all 4 of these games as well. But before we get to that, got to tell people about Pristine Auction. This is your go-to place for signed sports memorabilia. Whether it's a certain player, whether it's a certain team, whatever it is, this spot's got you. Use the promo code PFF. You're going to get $10 off whatever the first auction is that you win, because it's auction style as well. Not only is it a lot of great merchandise, but it's for great prices too. You can get a lot of steals with it being auction style. So check it out, pristineauction.com. Use that promo code PFF. Get yourself $10 off and get some great signed sports memorabilia. All right, now we're welcoming in Darius Butler to the show, as we do every single week, to give us his expertise and tell us basically where we're wrong on all the game previews that we just did. Darius, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing great, man. We got some great football today. Love this round of football, and then obviously tomorrow as well. So I'm doing great, man. I can't wait to get it started.
Man, everybody says that this is the best week of football. The divisional round, it's 4 games. There are 4 really good games that we have going on here. But before we jump into that, speaking of good games, I'm going to talk about not good games really quick. Last week, we had the Super Wildcard weekend. We had a lot of games to preview, but there weren't a ton of good games that actually happened. Darius, do we need to abolish the 7 seed? Was this a bad idea? Was this a mistake?
No. I mean, you're going to have some good years, some bad years for those 7 seeds, but don't abolish them. I like the one team getting a bye on each side. And, the Eagles and Steelers, they look like – I mean, they wasted our time last week, let's be honest. But, the Bucs and the Chiefs got a nice warm-up game. So it was some good football. We still watched, so I'll take it.
That's true.
We almost had the Chargers. We get Justin Herbert in a different simulation
this is true.
This year. I think we'd have a lot, brighter minds.
I think Darius is right. Like, some years, the 7 seed's going to be lit. Like, most of these times, the 7, sometime we're going to get a 7 upset of 2, right?
We can't ever have Big Ben again. That's a positive.
I blame the Colts. I blame the Colts for it all. It always ends up back in the Colts. I blame Carson. I blame the Colts.
I do feel from like a content perspective, the 7 seed is going to always make more money, right? Like that's the whole goal of including the additional teams is to like have more games, make more money. Right. But in terms of like actually choosing who the best team in the NFL is, it obviously adds more randomness and a layer where like Tristan Wirfs gets hurt, Ryan Jensen gets hurt,
right.
And now the Bucs have to go through a really bad fucking Eagles team to go to the Super Bowl, and now they're potentially down, they're questionable, but like potentially down 2 of their starting offensive linemen because they had to play again, it's great from a content perspective. Everyone sitting in these chairs or watching on YouTube loves it because you get to watch an extra game. But the fact that you have to make the Bucs cross an additional road to get to the Super Bowl and potentially get injuries just doesn't make sense. It does not help who is the best team in the NFL. It doesn't. Like, it just doesn't.
Somebody was talking about this last week. I can't remember where I heard it from, but I want to hear Darius' take on it. They were basically saying that, when you look at, say, like Green Bay's situation, where you've locked up the 1 seed, you can kind of like rest your starters the last week of the regular season, and then you have another week off. You're worried about rust. You're worried about like not coming out of the gate really hot. And they were like, oh, is it better to actually not get the 1 seed? And I'm with you. Mm-hmm. I think that no, because of the risk of injury, you'd much rather get the 1 seed anyways. But Darius, I'm curious, is rust a real thing? Like, is too much time off going into the playoffs? Do you think that's a real thing?
I mean, it depends on the team, obviously, but I definitely think it's a real thing because you're getting you're creatures of habit. You know, as athletes, you're getting a routine, and every week, you know, when that Tuesday rolls around, when that Thursday rolls around, like you're ready. Your body's kind of ready. So you go 2 and maybe 3 weeks off in some instances where you're not really playing real football, and then now you're playing the biggest game of your life maybe. And the other team has probably been fighting and been in playoff mode for the last 3-4 weeks. That's something you don't want to run into unless you're just that much better than the other team. I think rust is a real thing. You saw Aaron Rodgers, who will probably win his back-to-back MVP. He came out and said it early, like, hey, I want to play. You know, this last week doesn't really mean anything, but I want to play. They played the first half, and I think they'll come out and play good football. So rust is definitely a real thing for sure.
Well, there's a big-time player example about rust and not having played in a while that we're going to talk about here for this first game. Titans facing the Cincinnati Bengals. Derrick Henry hasn't played in a long time, and everybody still talks about, okay, this is the Titans' identity. This is the guy that they need to lean on. But would it be wise to just go all in on the identity that they had in the past when Henry didn't have this injury? Are you expecting a big-time workload from Derrick Henry, or do you think it would be smart for the Titans to really just lean on the passing game more and kind of almost ease Derrick Henry in? What do you think we're getting for the workload here for him?
I mean, from all the reports that I'm hearing, he's healthy. There won't be a pitch count, and I say you feed him. You got to feed him, man. You know, you obviously check with your doctors and make sure he's A-okay. I think they've done that. But you're fresh. You know, he's got fresh legs, and you look around, he's not really human. That's a mutant right there.
That's true.
This is true. Man. You keep Joe Burrow on the sideline as much as possible, and that's your best bet to win this game. They found ways to win all year. They've got a tough identity. So even if he is a little gassed, a little winded, he has to be spelled here and there. They got Foreman who can run the ball downhill as well. So I think you feed him because Derrick Henry as a defender, he kind of weighs on you. He gets heavier as the game goes on. After that 15th, 16th carry, he just gets better. So I think that's definitely the recipe for the Titans. And if you look at the quarterback matchup, I mean, I know Burrow is younger and second game in the playoffs, but he's clearly the better quarterback in this matchup. So I think you feed your best player, and that's Derrick Henry.
I want to ask you about confidence. The rest of the team looking at this and looking at Derrick Henry, almost like the cavalry is here, right? We got Derrick Henry back. How much does that do for a locker room, right? Like during your playing days, can you remember any, whether there was a specific instance or just feeling that you had where it was like, all right, we're getting one of our major dudes back this week, whether it was somebody in the secondary with you or the defense or maybe on offense. How much does that do just psychologically to a team, giving them that kind of confidence that a guy like Derrick Henry is even just suiting up with them this week?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely boosts that entire the confidence of that entire locker room. The offense, the defense, special teams, everybody. When you're, I mean, that's the player. Like if you play little league, you play high school, college. That's like, hey, you want that guy getting off the bus first,
right?
You know, when the Niners bust that door open, you got Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams coming out in the front of the team. Like, okay, this is a scary team with a big boom box on the side. Derrick Henry.
Who is holding the boom box? So we need to figure out who the boom box guy is.
We need that, and we need 32 of them. Every team needs to go ahead and get a boom box and blast the music. We can compare who plays better music too. But I think Derrick Henry, man, he's definitely one of those guys that not only just emotionally, but when you hand him that ball and you see him punish somebody, you see him stiff arm somebody, it's like basketball. Somebody gets a highlight dunk. So it brings up the morale for everybody, fans as well. And they'll be home too. So Titans, honestly, they've been the most disrespected one seed that I can recall. Like everybody talks about literally every other team in the playoffs except them. And of the 8 teams left, they played 4 of them. They beat all 4 of them. So I like the Titans to get hot and fight their way to the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, we're seeing the real value of that number 1 seed, right? Not only did you not have to play last week, risk the potential injuries that some of these other teams had, but both number 1 seeds are getting back significant players to their team. Derrick Henry for the Titans, Green Bay is getting like half of their best players rolling back into town, the cavalry rolling up. So, just not having to play last week is potentially huge for these teams.
And Julio Jones, too. I know he's not top 5 Julio Jones world beater anymore, but he's still a good player, someone you want to have out there on the field. And, Darius, I'm sure, even if, A.J. Green's out there, not the same person, but I'm sure it's pretty hard to be out there on the field, see these past, studs, even if they are a little bit, longer in the teeth, you still know that's Julio Jones underneath that helmet.
He's another. Derrick Henry, the first guy off the bus. Julio Jones would be the second. Probably A.J. Brown right behind those guys. And he's, like you said, he's older and he hasn't been out there much this year. But he can he can give you 1, 2, 3 games, or even 1, 2, or 3 plays in a game that can be a difference. So they're getting the whole offense back healthy. Like you said, Green Bay as well. The Bucs getting healthy on defense. So I'm excited to see some good football, great football this weekend.
I'll hold the boombox for those dudes. If I'm coming out with Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones, I'll hold the boombox for them.
They would not let you hold the boombox.
Come on.
Are you kidding me?
Come on.
They need another big guy.
I look like a hold the boombox kind of guy.
No, you don't.
Yes,
they let Darius hold the boombox.
The funny part about that.
No, Trey, you can hold it. I got you.
Thank you, Darius.
Sure.
Let's move on to another team that's getting a ton of players back. Green Bay Packers. Sam just mentioned it there. Packers facing the San Francisco 49ers. We hear so much about Matt LaFleur versus Kyle Shanahan. This chess matchup. Kyle Shanahan won the first 2. Matt LaFleur has won the last 2. But, man, it took a field goal at the very last second and a kind of a miracle last drive there by Aaron Rodgers for the Green Bay Packers to win that last matchup that they had. The 49ers are dangerous. The Packers are getting more healthy. Who you got in this one, Darius?
I got the Packers, man. I got the Packers winning. I think Aaron Rodgers just gonna make 1 or 2 more plays in this situation. You saw Jimmy G. When the situation gets tighter, I feel like every week he's gonna make 1 or 2 plays or throws where it's like, what are you doing, Jimmy? So I think we'll have that situation here. But Kyle, they're gonna have a chance. They're bullies, man. It's gonna be one of those physical games. Deebo Samuel, Trent. Kittle, they got to get Kittle involved. The last few weeks, Kittle has kind of been a non-factor, honestly, on that offense. I think he'll be a big X factor if they want to win. Jimmy will have to play a perfect game, but I think the Green Bay Packers win this game. But the 49ers do cover. It's a big 5.5-point spread. I like the 49ers cover.
It does feel like it's crazy how little we're talking about George Kittle. Like there were a couple of games back-to-back in the middle of the season where he just put on an absolute show, had over, I think it was 350 receiving yards, whatever it was, a handful of touchdowns with it, and we went, there were some people who were saying, like, this is the best tight end in football. Like, he's better than Travis Kelce. Yeah. And it's been kind of quiet since then. But to Darius' point, it feels like George Kittle could blow up at any time.
What's weird, though, is I thought, 4 straight games under 30 yards. I assumed they were using him less as a receiver, but he ran a route on 24 of Jimmy G's 25 dropbacks last week. So, I don't know, man. But, yeah, best, our number 1 highest graded tight end this year in PFF receiving grade. Get your best players the ball, particularly now if we got a quarterback that's playing through the thumb that's not attached, the shoulder that's sprained. Use your yak monsters. You got them.
Right. No, I agree.
Remember, this is the game that finally proves you wrong. Like, you've been riding.
This is true. This is true.
This is the game. If Green Bay wins this one, you were wrong all the way.
If. But if the Niners win, I was right the whole time. I was right the whole season. My boldest, dare I say, came to fruition. Let's move on to the Sunday games.
One more. This is probably the last team the Packers wanted to see, though. I'll tell you that much. It's the last team they wanted to see. So we'll see.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's unique matchups everywhere for the 49ers. They make them such a tough team to guard. Dallas found out the hard way last week. Even with them having a chance to win it at the end, the 49ers came out, boom, just punched them in the mouth that first half of the game. Actually, before we move on, Darius, in your mind, who is the most at fault for that blunder by the Cowboys at the very end? Was it Dak not handing the ball to the ref? Was it Kellen Moore for the play call? Was it the ref not getting the hell out of the way? What was the big factor there for you?
I think there's plenty of fault to go around, but Kellen Moore for calling that play. You got to know, the line of demarcation or the time, and you can't do that at 14 seconds. It's just too many things, too many variables that have to go right. The ref has to be close enough. He has to spot it. Everybody's got to be on point. You just don't do that. 16, 18 seconds, maybe. 14, way too close. So and then Dak not handing the ball to the ref and then getting out of the way. He knows that operation. Everybody knows that you have to hand the ball to the ref. So it's blame to go around. Mike McCarthy clearing it and then standing on it after the game. I mean, I guess you can't throw your coordinator under the bus at that point, but I think it's blame to go around.
Jimmy G was most at fault. Like, any one of multiple mistakes, they never get that ball back. Like Dallas should have never had the drive in the first place.
Dallas had 17 points as #1 scoring offense. Like they have more than enough chances to go do something in that game. Don't wait until those 13 seconds left. Like, come on.
I also feel like there's been so much, obviously publicity around that play. But like even if they do spot it, like it's still going to be like a 27-yard Hail Mary to like tie that game.
Right,
like I still don't.
They could have had multiple shots to the end zone.
I feel like it's so easy in that situation. Say like, hey, like yeah, man, we really screwed. It's like no, like you put yourself in this hole by playing like ass like the first 3 quarters. Like I don't understand how we're going to bring it all down to this one play. Like Jimmy G gifted you a comeback with multiple mistakes, and then you just came up short because you made one bad decision. But the bad decisions that were the ones that they did literally the first 3 quarters of that game, where they couldn't move the ball, barely targeted CeeDee Lamb. Like so much of the error was before that play than actually the play.
14 penalties.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. Let's move on to Sunday's games. Let's get to Brady versus Stafford. This is a matchup that has given the Bucs trouble in the past. They have not fared well against the Los Angeles Rams. Lost against them in Week 3 this year. Lost to the Los Angeles Rams last year. This one's obviously all the marbles are on the line here, facing off in the postseason. What do we think about this matchup? How well Stafford played last week versus kind of how shaky he was at the end of the regular season. What do you think about this matchup here, Darius?
You know what? He played well last week, and he was. I think McVay put him in positions to not F it up. He didn't throw the ball much. Cam Akers,
beautifully said.
Talk about a mutant. That's a mutant. Anterior Achilles, and then come back and have that type of production.
Crazy.
In the big game. But I got the Bucs in this one, man. I like the Bucs. In no universe am I taking Stafford over Brady in a divisional round game. I just can't do it. I know this Rams team, they got after Brady earlier on in the year, and then you got some banged up O-linemen. But the Rams are dealing with some O-line issues as well. Whitworth to be out. And the Bucs defense, they weren't healthy last time they faced off. You got all 11 starters back for the first time since Week 1. So I got more faith in the Bucs to hold it down at home and get the win. But Stafford, I think at some point in this game, he's going to put his team in a bad situation again, probably a pick 6 or something like that. So I'm going with the Bucs at home to win and cover.
How worried are you about those offensive line injuries for Tampa specifically? It looks like Jensen's going to be okay, but of course, like anything less than 100% going up against Aaron Donald is something that you worry about. And then Tristan Wirfs might not be able to go at all, and even if he does, he's going to be banged up going up against a sack master like Von Miller. How much does that worry you versus how quickly and we've seen Brady be able to get the ball out of his hands?
Yeah, exactly. That's why it doesn't worry me much. If it was, these other younger quarterback or a guy that gets sacked a bunch, maybe. But Brady, it's been a lot of moving parts, pass catchers. The O-line has been healthy for the majority of the year, but I think he'll adjust. He'll be able to get the ball out, get the ball around his guys. And like I said, last week was kind of a warm-up game for him in the offense and some of these new pass catchers that'll be out there. You still got Mike Evans, who's another guy who's not talked about enough, in my opinion. Gronk is still Gronk, and other weapons that are getting healthy in the backfield as well. So I have no problem with Brady. I think he'll have no problem today still moving that ball, putting up points. Putting up one more touchdown than the Rams can put up this game.
Darius, are you going back to well with Scotty Miller over, or you heard?
No, I'm staying the hell away from Scotty Miller. Matt even got on that damn ticket. That unbelievable. I'm going to keep this thing PG-13. That was tough. He's been keeping him off the ticket this week.
See, now the game that he's off on Scotty Miller, he's going to catch a bomb. He's going to catch like a 45-yard bomb.
You only need one catch from Scotty to clear that problem.
Every time, every single week. It's just, is he catching a big bomb or is he not? We'll see if he gets one this week. I know that, not to slight Brady or Stafford at all, but this next game, Mahomes versus Allen, this is the quarterback matchup. There's a reason why they saved this one for Sunday night. It's because this is truly the finale of what is the best week of the season in the NFL. These teams already matched up once already this season. The Bills came away victorious, but can't forget about what these teams did last postseason where the Chiefs bested the Bills and were able to go on to the Super Bowl after that. And so this feels like a rubber match over the last year and a half. So what do we think? Who do you like in this one? Do you like Josh Allen or do you like Patrick Mahomes? What do you think, Darius?
Well, number one, I like the fact that I won't be playing in this one against either one of these quarterbacks. These dudes are phenomenal and should be phenomenal for the next decade plus. I can't wait to watch this one. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid are tough to bet against at home, but I'm going to be crazy enough to do it, man. Josh Allen, just what he did last week, another warm-up game, and it was a perfect game. He basically pitched a perfect game. I think he rides that wave, and I like their defense better. I just think they have more playmakers on defense, especially on the back end. Having 2 all-pro safeties with Hyde and Poyer, and guys that are interchangeable. They can both be effective in the pass game, in the deep part of the field. They can be involved in the run game. I love that for them on that defensive side of the ball. So I'm going with the Bills on the road, avenging their loss last week and getting a win up there in Arrowhead.
I feel like it cannot be understated how the Bills lost Tre'Davious White, one of the best corners in the NFL, and still number 1 pass defense in the league this season, right, Sam?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have affected the defense. Now, to be fair, they haven't faced a ton of teams that would test that like the Chiefs will, but that defense has been fantastic. It really does look like a top-end defense, a top-end pass defense, even without Tre'Davious White. And I agree with Darius. Like, that is a big differentiator in this game. The Chiefs' defense is better than it was earlier in the year when they were just getting ripped by everybody, but it isn't as good as Buffalo's.
I think top to bottom, the Buffalo Bills are the better football team, right? Like, I think they're better on defense.
Right?
I think they're better on. I think they can go toe to toe with some of the skill players that the Kansas City Chiefs have. Mm-hmm. It all comes down to what Josh Allen are we getting, right? Are we getting a Josh Allen that outperforms Patrick Mahomes? Something that we think is possible this year, right? Like, Patrick Mahomes is going to finish the season with the first sub 90.0 PFF grade he's ever had in his career, not counting the 2017 season where he didn't play. Whereas Josh Allen is coming off the highest graded single game we've seen in the postseason, or I think the second highest. Like, if Josh Allen plays like good Josh Allen, which it has been a roller coaster throughout his career, they are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think they beat them badly. But that is a big if. Patrick Mahomes has been more consistent, less of a roller coaster, 3 back-to-backs or 3 consecutive seasons of 90-plus grading. This year he hasn't been that. The offensive line has 5 new starters. I think this is the year where Buffalo goes into KC and they beat them.
Darius, do you have a dog of the day amongst these 4 games or even like a best bet from these 4?
Well, I got the San Francisco 49ers. I got them covering at 5.5 point spread against the Packers. You know, getting Bosa back. Warner should play as well. I think they'll go up there and cover, but I got the Bengals covering as well, so it's a few dogs that I like to cover, but I think the favorites end up winning. But I mean, everybody's excited about that Sunday night game. I am as well. And I think one big differentiator between the two is, especially from last year, the Bills. They've improved so much in their run game. You know, Singletary, with Josh Allen using his legs more, just saying, "F it, I'm just going to take off." And he is. I mean, he's a wagon in open field, and he can move. So I think that'll be the difference in that game. But I mean, I can't say it enough. I can't wait for all these games to kick off. I'm excited.
So for people that were just tuning in, let's give them a little Spark Notes version of it. Titans, Bengals. You got the Bengals in that one, or you got the Titans?
Titans money line, Bengals cover.
Okay, all right. And then Niners, Packers. You're going with the Niners?
Same thing. Green Bay wins, money line straight up, but the Niners cover.
All right, and then Tampa, Los Angeles.
Tampa wins, Tampa covers.
Okay, and then Bills versus Chiefs.
Bills win, and obviously they're the dogs, so they're covered as well.
There we go. There we go.
Three dogs,
everybody. It is. It's a dog's day, right? right. You said, don't you laugh at me. You said that before we
I would never say that.
Cameras on. Darius, you got any final thoughts for playoffs, divisional weekend, everything before we get out of here?
Hey, man, like I said, I've said it 10 times. I'll say it again, man. I'm just excited for some good football. Obviously, I'm confident in my bets, but if these games go either way, I'll be like, I should have saw that coming. So I'm looking forward to these games actually playing out. And then obviously we'll be talking about championship weekend next week.
Yeah, I cannot wait for it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching the show. Hope you guys had a good time watching. For Darius Butler, for Ian Hartitz, for Austin Gayle, for Sam Monson, I am Trevor Sikkema. Enjoy the best week of playoff football there is. We will see you guys next week.